Hello, my name is Kate and I'm a Careers Advisor with Skills Development Scotland, SDS, Scotland's skills agency and careers service. This webinar Horizon Scanning will cover everything you need to know about how to find out about the career options available to you and set goals to help you take action. The session is based on section 3 of the Positive Steps to Your Future Handbook, which can be accessed electronically by visiting www.skillsdevelopmentscotland.co.uk and then clicking on Publications and Statistics and search using the keywords Positive Steps. You might find it useful to take notes during the session, so do have a pen and paper handy. In this session today, we will explore some of the things you might want to think about when considering your next career steps, whatever your current situation is. So in the next few slides, we will set the scene and reflect on how the world of work has and will continue to change and the opportunities that this might present for you. We're then going to focus on how to research the market and explore the options that are out there. We will consider how we typically make decisions and some things to highlight about this. And we'll finish up with setting goals and how to make it happen. So just to get you started, how do you feel about this area of career management? So that is knowing what options exist, how to find out about other options available to you, and how to access them. So using a number scale where 1 is not confident and 10 is super confident, take a moment just to note down the number that best reflects how you're feeling today. Traditionally, career has been regarded as a straight road, a straight line between A and B. When we first set off on our journey, we maybe had a longer term career goal and clear routes to get there. A fairly predictable path with milestones of education, training, promotion, all clearly signposted. Maybe you went off to do an apprenticeship or went to college or to university before finding a job. Today, the journey is more complex and it's ever changing. There's much less emphasis on a once and for all plan. Instead, our career might involve interesting but unplanned discoveries along the way. Take a look at the images on the slide. Is there a picture here that represents how you feel about your career journey? Think back to when you were about to leave school. Can you remember what job you wanted to do? And did you end up doing that job? There are some of us who may still experience a relatively straight route, but most of us will change direction or roles several times and experience multiple employers. We may also have our work interrupted for a number of reasons, which could include redundancy, health issues, raising a family, perhaps going traveling, or caring for a loved one. Or perhaps you might have decided to embark on learning and training. This journey may require you to consider jobs or working patterns that didn't exist even a few years ago. So because the journey isn't straightforward, the long-term destination is less important. This means we need to focus more on the now and building the resources that you need to navigate the journey so you can make decisions and seize opportunities along the way. Our other webinars cover building confidence, being adaptable and resilient, and learning from our career so far. We will talk in this webinar about setting goals and taking advantage of opportunities that present themselves. We call all of this developing our career management skills. Being confident and developing these skills will make the journey a much more smoother one. When we think about options, we think about what's available to you overall, and this will include things you already know about, but also perhaps things that you're yet to discover. So as mentioned, we'll help you explore what's right for you by giving you tips on the best ways to go about how to find the right option or options for you. So what do you want to do? So for some of us, staying in the same area of work is the easiest option, as we tend to have the skills, experience and qualifications to allow us to do this. But also the paths of progression are much clearer. However, this option may not always be possible as working practices change and technology brings about other changes to certain types of work, while other industries might disappear altogether. A move to a different type of work can be an unhappy necessity or a welcome opportunity. Traditionally, we may have thought about just one option at a time, but increasingly we might want to look at some of these concurrently. As careers advisors, this has been something we would always recommend, as this allows you to ensure you are employable on a longer term basis. So what can you be doing now to ensure that if things do need to change, you're in the right position to take up new opportunities? So for people who were on furlough, for example, unable to do the job they were employed to do, they might have taken up other part-time work, perhaps started a business, which may often have been online. They took up learning, did voluntary work, and this would have helped to develop new skills and experience. But you don't need a pandemic to think about more than one option at once. These are all options available to you. Even retirement doesn't necessarily mean leaving the world of work altogether. We're living longer and there are always opportunities to carry on, though perhaps working less hours, being active in your local community, or taking up learning, and so on. So how do you choose what is right for you? Understanding yourself and what motivates you are some of the themes covered in our other webinars and is an important part of the career decision making. In this session, we will look at what is out there for you and how to make the right choices as you continue on your career journey. So now we're going to have a look at flexible working. When we have a career decision to make, sometimes we limit ourselves and make decisions based on what's familiar or what's available at the time, and sometimes we even let others make the decision for us and hope it works out. We'll talk more about why this happens later, but it's worth noting that so much is changing in the world of work and lots of new opportunities are opening up that you might want to think about. Could these present opportunities for you? For so many of us, the pandemic changed the way we work. We saw a massive shift to home working and we had to adapt to using technologies, sometimes in ways that we'd never experienced before. Previously, some of you may have travelled great distances to meet a customer, and now you can just do that over a Teams or a Zoom call. And so many of us have shown how versatile we can be and how we've learnt to do things differently. So can we now capitalise on this way of working? During this period, we also saw more flexible and remote working, and the geographical barriers associated with employment opportunities reduced. And now we're hearing more about the continuation of these flexible working models, hybrid models. So for some, the option to work partly in their place of work and partly from home is now possible. Because employees have shown they can adapt successfully to working in different ways, this could result in new possibilities for future working. We also see more advertising for blended jobs too. We don't know exactly how the world of work will look in the future, so it's worth keeping an open mind and assessing each opportunity as it presents itself. Get digital. The quote here from Rob Huggins refers to problems such as acid rain, the hole in the ozone layer, leaded petrol, and the use of fossil fuels. And solutions to these problems have been or are being developed. As the future unfolds around us, job opportunities are changing too. Industries are evolving as technology continues to shape the world we're living in. Many jobs will become digital jobs and digital skills will blend into every discipline. Thankfully, we don't all need to be coders, but most of us will need to be able to switch on a computer. In the financial sector, innovative applications of new technology have transformed how financial services and products are delivered to customers. And this has resulted in new jobs known as fintech jobs, where technology and finance combine to become more innovative and cutting edge, so that those who have an interest in technology and also in finance can find exciting new blended roles. So whilst we might be familiar with mobile banking or contactless payments, a fintech job might mean using artificial intelligence and machine learning, such as chat boxes that respond to customer inquiries quicker. Claire Gillespie, who's the Skills Development Scotland's ICT and Digital Technology Sector Skills Manager, believes there are opportunities for all of us and that tech skills will be required in all levels of the economy. From digital skills being part of hairdressing courses to farming where sensors in cows can monitor cows' health. Jill Doherty, who's the Chief Executive of Data Lab Innovation Centre in Edinburgh, talks about the different ways we work with technology at present. So she's identified that there's tech citizens, And that's nearly all of us who use technology to function in our daily lives. Then there's tech workers, and that's those of us who work with tech to enable us to do our jobs. For example, we might be doing different jobs, but tech enables us to do our job. And that includes my job as a careers advisor and many, many more jobs. And then there's tech professionals, those with a deep understanding and knowledge of tech, required to be programmers, developers, and so on. So which are you? And which do you think you would want to be? Every day, exciting and different opportunities are developing. Maybe you've always had an interest in using technology, and this will form part of your career journey. Or maybe the skills you gained during COVID have made you realise you're good at using technology and would like to now know more. Or maybe it's something you don't especially enjoy, but would just like to get better. Whatever your situation, there are lots of ways you can learn and develop digital skills, and our careers advisors at Skills Development Scotland will be able to help you more about learning and training opportunities. You can phone our helpline on 0800 917 8000 to find out more. Our staff will help you to find ways to develop these skills that suit your starting point, from no or little knowledge to being very advanced. When making choices about the next stage of your career, some of you might be thinking about using your skills to try something new. So now it's worth noting that some sectors in the economy are set to grow and other sectors will require people to replace those who are leaving. This is called replacement demand. We've already started to talk about how digital technologies are changing the world, and the Scottish Government's response to our climate emergency is also going to create new areas for career changes to consider too. The Scottish Government's targets on climate change can mean there will be many opportunities to work in green jobs. You might be a plumber, for example, who wants to try something new. So the fact that gas boilers will eventually be a thing of the past and the new low energy, zero emissions alternatives will be the norm could present upskilling opportunities for you. You will also find industry sector pages on our website, myworldofwork.co.uk, where you'll find information about Scotland's growth sectors and the sorts of jobs that exist within these sectors, and lots of other useful information as well. But just to give you an idea of the opportunities, I'm going to give you some examples. So the health and social care sector has more than 203,000 people working in social services and with 161,000 staff in NHS. The NHS is Scotland's biggest employer. And both sectors are growing in size, and with an average age in the 40s, more recruits are needed to fill the gaps. Occupations in demand across the sector include social work, educational psychology, nursing roles, accountants, chefs, software designers, and many more. In construction, 30% of the sector is aged 50 plus, and so new entrants are needed across a broad range of jobs. Demand for traditional trades is high, but also there's a need for software developers, biotechnologists, project managers, and there's plenty of scope to be self-employed in this sector as well. And then in ICT and digital sector, 90,000 people work in digital tech in Scotland, and we need 13,000 new recruits each year. Here's a short video about the ways to use labour market information known as LMI to help you plan your career journey. And remember, you're not on this journey alone. Skills Development Scotland careers advisors are here to help, and if you want to use them as a sounding board, seek advice about qualifications, perhaps upskilling, accessing learning opportunities, then call our free helpline on 0800 917 8000 and you can speak to a qualified advisor on a one-to-one basis. have a look at finding the right option using job information. Searching for vacancies should also be part of your research at this point. Even if you're not ready to apply for jobs, looking at adverts and job descriptions is really important and gives you an idea of what the labour market looks like. It also allows you to check if you meet the requirements of any jobs that you're interested in. You can then identify any gaps you may have and start to think about how you might fill those gaps so that when you're ready to apply, you meet the criteria. This is career management skills in action. So putting things in place so that you're prepared for any career transition you may be faced with, whether they're planned or unplanned. So how are you going to source these opportunities? The internet is so widely used now for job searching. It offers so many sources of job vacancies from recruitment agencies, company websites, sector-specific publications, job boards, recruitment events, and many more. But there are other ways to find out about the world of work. For example, you could use your networks to find people who could help you explore the labour market and inspire you. Network needn't be daunting. It's about just speaking to people to find company and job information. An informational interview is a meeting where you're asking for information and advice, not a job, and it's where you can discuss work in a particular sector. You could perhaps ask about the routes in, the kind of learning or training you should have under your belt to be considered for that kind of work. And it can also give you an insight into the working environment and ethos of a particular company. Meetings don't have to be face-to-face, so social media and networking sites like LinkedIn also play a really important part in your careers and job search. Now, there's more on LinkedIn in our webinar, Get Sorted. The video explored how we can use LMI to gather information. Finding good quality information about careers, jobs and learning is key to effective decision making. Good quality decisions are based on good quality information. So where would be the first place you would look for careers information? Or who would be the first person you would ask for careers information? Take a moment to think about this. Of course, you could just Google your question, and this can be very effective and produce lots of information. But how do you filter out the good information from the bad information? The internet is full of sources of information, but how do you identify what's reliable? You may be asking yourself, where do I start with my career research? How do I filter out the good information from the not so good information? Careers websites and job websites can both be really useful. So a careers website will offer much more than just job vacancies. It will have in-depth information about careers, sectors, labour market information, CVs, interview skills, learning and training opportunities, voluntary work, and much more. A jobs website will generally focusing on advertising vacancies, though most now do offer help with information and advice on all aspects of job seeking and career decision making. A great place to start is myworldofwork.co.uk. Because Skills Development Scotland is Scotland's skills agency and career service, we have teams of colleagues working to ensure that all the information is as up to date as possible and reflects the needs of the Scottish labour market. Our top tips for finding the right option: do your research. Researching online can be a fantastic starting point. Take time to consider what your options are and don't be rushed into making a big decision. Talk about your options. This could be a friend or a family member. It can also be really good to speak to someone independent of your situation who's unbiased and has your interests at heart. Our professionally qualified careers advisors can support you at every stage of your career journey. Speak to a careers advisor by calling 0800 917 8000. And all of our support is completely free. So choosing the right path. As we've discussed, there's a wealth of really good quality careers information and job vacancy information out there. Once you've found the resources you find most helpful, use them to find out as much information as you can on the job, the sector, or the courses that you're interested in. This research will help you make well-informed decisions. The decisions can be about what you don't want to do, as well as about what you definitely want to pursue. The more good quality information you have on which to base your decisions, the more likely you are to achieve a positive outcome in your next steps. So it can be really helpful to ask yourself the 3 questions that you can see on the slide. So first of all, what does the opportunity offer? So there may be financial benefits, or there might be opportunities to travel, perhaps gain further qualifications or gain vital experience. What does it demand? So is it full-time or a part-time opportunity? Will you need to commute to work? Perhaps you might need to do evening or weekend work. And what challenges will the opportunity present? So you may need to take a financial cut, or perhaps relocate or work from home. So just take a moment to think about what other questions you might ask when carrying out careers research. All this information gathering will now put you in a stronger position to start making some well-informed decisions. However, there is more to it than just the hard facts. So the final question is, how does it make you feel? So it's worth bearing in mind that instincts also play a part in our decision making. So let's have a think about how our brains work in the decision making process. So we've done all our research, we've used the websites, used our networks and so on. So how then do we make sense of it all and decide what's right for us? Whilst research is really important and careers advisors would certainly encourage it, interestingly, these rational approaches of finding out all that the job or the course or the training involves and demands of us, and working out the extent to which this matches what we want and can offer, is not actually how we make decisions in reality. This is to do with how the brain works. So we're going to take a look at that now. So there are 3 parts to our brains that deal with decision making. Firstly, there's like the ancient part, which is the flight, fright, freeze part. And then secondly, the rational part of the brain, the neocortex. And finally, the sensory feelings, impressions part of the brain known as the limbic system. So interestingly, by far the majority of our decisions get made in the emotional feelings part of the brain, and that's the limbic system. In fact, research reveals that 93% of our decisions are made there and only 7% are made in the rational part, that is the neocortex. So what does this mean? Well, it means that often when important decisions such as career decisions have to be made, we rely on our gut feeling. And this part of the brain knows what's important to us and what we value. And for most of our everyday decisions, that's absolutely fine. But it also means that if we rely solely on this, it can be prone to certain biases we favour and means we can sometimes make poor decisions. This is because this part of the brain favours the familiar. So if we currently work in a job where we don't use technology, for example, we might favour a similar job simply out of preference for the known, for what we know. Or if we've only ever worked, say, Monday to Friday, 9 to 5, but an interesting opportunity comes up with a real mix of hours, we might just discard it immediately. So it means we can miss out on opportunities that we might enjoy and actually be capable of doing. And also, once we think we know something, we look for information to confirm our beliefs and discount other information, so-called confirmation bias. So, for example, if I already think digital media careers are only for people who want to go to university, I'll look for evidence to confirm this and ignore posters showing apprenticeships or workplace-based learning. Another problem with relying only on the gut feeling or the intuitive part of the brain alone is that it's prone to valuing short-term gains over longer-term benefits. So, if you see an immediate job which pays more right now, you might go for it over the opportunity which actually pays less but might be offering maybe training and maybe more prospects. So in contrast, the other part of the brain, the rational part, overcomes these emotional and habit responses but is not without its issues either. So, for example, at a job interview, we might notice it seems an unfriendly place and seems unhappy, but if we only focus on the salary, we might not factor that into the decision. The examples could go on and on. To make good decisions, it's good to be aware of these things. We need to use both sides of our brains. Of course, our feelings are important, but we need the rational side to check the decision and be able to justify it. So researching, using good quality information, weighing up pros and cons is an important part of the decision making. Another important point to remember about decision making is there is no evidence that one method is better than the other. Sometimes the more we ponder over the pros and the cons, trying to work out the perfect decision, we end up not being able to, see the wood for the trees. So remember, you can always change your mind. And if you make a mistake, you can learn from it and use it to move forward. Careers advisors are here to help with that decision making. If you feel you've struggled with decision making in the past and would like to use an advisor as maybe just a sounding board for future decisions, then please call our helpline on 0800 917 8000. We've thought about how the world of work is changing and the opportunities this might present. We then focused on how to research the market and how we've considered how we typically make decisions. We will finish with setting goals and making it happen. So now we're going to have a look at goal setting. So that is, now, how are you going to make everything happen? So many people do not necessarily have clear goals in life. The jobs people do and the things they achieve are often just dictated as much by circumstances as by choice. However, research shows that if you have clear goals set out and make plans to achieve them, you're much more likely to succeed. Now, some people like to apply the SMART technique to their goal setting, and you may have heard of that. This is where your goals are identified as specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time-bound. So a SMART goal could look like this. So it's specific, and that is your goal is clearly defined. Measurable, you can evidence your progress. Achievable, you have confidence that you will get where you want to be. Realistic, you have a practical idea of what it is that you want to achieve. And it's time bound. And what that means is you set time limits for each of the goals. So I'm just going to give you a little example of what that could look like. So Jane, she recently worked as a careers advisor at SDS, and her SMART goals look like this. So they were specific. Jane was looking for a job that is part-time and requires numerous skills and experience in the financial sector. She was happy to do further training if required by the job. She has a small pension, but it wasn't really enough to live on, so she worked out the minimum wage she would require to live more comfortably. It was measurable. So she wanted to be able to tick off all her objectives and not need to compromise in any way. Achievable. She has experience of Sage, Line 50, which is an accounting system, and knows that a lot of job adverts will be asking for this. Realistic. Many jobs involve working from home at the moment, but Jane did not want more than an hour's commute to work. Should a return to an office be required? She lives in the central belt of Scotland, where there are a number of finance jobs available, so she knew this was a realistic option. And then it was time bound. She's looking to start a new job within the next 8 weeks. Of course, goals can relate to work, they can relate to education, health, relationships, family, finances, and even you can set goals for, your hobbies like having fun and so on. So have a think about what is your number one goal. Note down what this might be. You can have a think after the session today about how you can make your number one goal a SMART goal. So make sure that you're being realistic about reaching your goal and give yourself time to achieve it. Writing your goals down can really help, and remember to review them on a regular basis. Talk over with a friend, a family member, or again, remember you can always call a careers advisor. So don't be afraid to change the goals as you go along. You can be flexible and let go of any goals you no longer think are relevant or smart. For some people, SMART may be a little bit too rigid. So in the next slide, we're going to take a look at an alternative, more flexible approach. So the SMART approach doesn't work for everyone. You may have come across the Hawaiian saying, goals are deceptive, the unaimed arrow never misses. And this may be true for you. An alternative to SMART goal setting for anyone planning a career move can be to consider the steps that you need to get to a goal rather than simply just focusing on the goal itself. So here's a quote that sums up this approach nicely. Work backwards from your dreams, not forwards from your past. So think about where you want to be and then how you're going to get there. Action planning is turning your goals into actions and then making it happen. So there's 3 important questions you can ask yourself when you are action planning. Firstly, what is my current situation? Secondly, what is it I would like to do? And thirdly, what steps do I need to take to get there? So you can see your current situation is A, and what you would like to do is B, as shown on the slide. So there can be a number of steps in between to help you reach your main goal, but a good tip is to treat each step as like a mini goal. By breaking things down into these smaller steps, it can be less overwhelming. For example, if your goal B is, say, just fairly broad and it's like changing my career, it's a pretty big goal and can seem unachievable if you don't yet know what the job is that you want to do. The steps that you take to get there can be your smaller goals. For example, you could use the skills discovery tool on My World of Work to help you pinpoint your transferable skills. You could speak to a family friend about their job, as it might sound quite interesting to you. And again, you could speak to a careers advisor about what is important to you in life and work. You could do some careers research, take up some learning, and so on. So these are all examples of what your mini goals could be. The good news is, by reaching these mini goals, you'll feel more motivated to carry out and achieve these goals, which will in turn lead you closer to your bigger main goal, which is at B. And of course, you can make each of these mini goals a SMART goal if you feel that that is appropriate. So what I'm going to do now is just sum up what we've covered in this webinar today. So we've explored some of the things you might want to think about when considering your next career steps, whatever your current situation is. I asked at the beginning of this webinar how you're feeling about the area of career management, and that is knowing what your options are, how to find out about other options available to you, and how to access them. Think about a number that best reflects where you are now. Again, 1 being not confident and 10 being super confident. So I'm just wondering now if you're feeling more confident. So just refer back to that score that you had at the beginning of the session, and has your confidence grown? So hopefully with some of this information that you've received today, you will have increased your score on that confidence scale. So just a reminder then of some of the key messages before we finish up. We covered the traditional notion of the career ladder and how you may now follow a non-linear path. So be receptive to new ideas, and there's no such thing as a job for life. You may be expected to work more flexibly, but this could be to your advantage. And it is likely that technology will play a bigger part in your working life. Consider how you want technology to feature in your life and in your work. For example, are you ready to embrace new ways of doing things? Are you keen to learn new IT skills and use them more in a work environment? But perhaps there are some reassurance in that the increase in technology goes hand in hand with the need for the more human skills as well that we all possess and that we can develop. So research is the key to opening up new and appropriate opportunities and to enable you to make those well-informed decisions. So set plenty of time aside for this activity and be aware of how your brain makes decisions. And then finally, we talked about making a plan and thinking about how you're going to make it all happen. Okay, so what action will you take as a result of watching this webinar? Maybe now's a good time to just jot down a couple of things that you could do to help you start working towards your goals. So finally, just to finish up, just going to go over the further help that's available from Skills Development Scotland after this webinar. So please remember, if that you do want to discuss your career ideas or you're feeling unsure about your next steps, then please do call Skills Development Scotland helpline on 0800 917 8000, where one of our fully qualified and experienced careers advisors will be able to support you. So you can also scan the QR code that's on the screen, and by doing that you can also request a call. If you prefer, you can meet a careers advisor face-to-face at one of our Skills Development Scotland careers centres. So to find your local careers centre, you can use the centre tool on myworldofwork.co.uk to access local face-to-face support. You'll also find lots more useful information on the website to help you consider your options and move on successfully. And if you've enjoyed this webinar, then please do watch others in the series of Positive Steps to Your Future, available on My World of Work YouTube channel. So thanks ever so much for attending this webinar, and I hope you found it useful. Thank you, and goodbye for now.